In Venezuela, the foreign ministers appointed by Colombia's President-elect Gustavo Petro visited the border state of Tachira to meet with authorities of the Venezuelan government. The President of Peru, Pedro Castillo, in his annual message to Parliament, will attend cooperation to all political sectors to work together to solve the country's problem. In Mali, terrorist attacks left a total of 15 soldiers and 3 civilians killed during 2 separate attacks in the southwest. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrera from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Venezuela, the foreign ministers appointed by the President-elect of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, visited the border state of Tachira to meet with authorities of the Venezuelan government. Governor Freddy Bernal received the next Colombian Foreign Minister Álvaro Leiva at the Palacio de los Leones headquarters of the regional government in what represents one of the first rapprochements between both countries after years of diplomatic disagreements. Imposed by the current Colombian executive, the meeting was attended by the Venezuelan Foreign Minister Carlos Faria, who traveled to the locality to hold a meeting with the visiting dignitary. At the same time, the Vice President-elect of Colombia, Francia Marquez, is also developing a South American tour to outline the future relations of this nation with its closest neighbors.
Let this be the first step on a long road to the meeting of fraternity, friendship, love, and prosperity for both the peoples of Colombia and Venezuela. I have no doubt that these bonds of friendship and familiarity between Colombia and Venezuela will become much stronger after this encounter. It only remains for me to ask Almighty God, to our Holy Christ of La Grita, to bless, as He had done it, this meeting of fraternity, and that we can move on to the unity and love of the peoples of Colombia and Venezuela.
The next Colombia Foreign Minister, Álvaro Leiva, said that both countries will establish binational and diplomatic relations as August 7th.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Carlos Faria, together with the designated Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Colombia, Álvaro Leiva Durán, meeting in the city of San Cristobal, Tachira State, Venezuela, inspired by the historic deed of the liberator Simón Bolívar, reaffirmed the historic ties of brotherhood, complementarity and cooperation that unite our people. Complementarity and cooperation that unite our peoples. On this occasion, the foreign ministers first expressed the willingness to advance in a work agenda to move forward in the gradual normalization of binational relations after August the 7th with the appointment of ambassadors and other diplomatic and consular officials.
Likewise, the Foreign Minister of Venezuela, Carlos Farias, emphasized that Venezuela and Colombia will work for peace and mutual security.
We have agreed to appoint, once that moment arrives, of course, the ambassadors who will represent our countries, all the teams that should be working in the consulates, both those representing the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and the Republic of Colombia. We have talked, agreed, and we have concurred with the fact that we must look carefully and work for peace, for the security of our border. We're talking about the gradual opening of the border, something that will directly and immediately benefit our people.
This Thursday, July 28, members of the National Directorate of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela and the Youth Honor Commander Hugo Chavez celebrating 68th anniversary of his birth. From the Cuartel of de la Montaña, PSUV First Vice President Diosdado Cabello said that the youth people presented Chavez is yours, ours, the one who brought us here and the one who keeps us here and the one who will always be with us. He highlighted that thanks to the legacy of the eternal Commander Hugo Chavez, values continue to be the force throughout the national territory. He urged the revolutionary who feels tired and feels like giving up some kind of heaviness to go to the Cuartel de la Montaña to talk to Hugo Chavez, to express their fears, his complaints. And he will seriously listen to Hugo Chavez, who will tell him, get up, boy, and go ahead, always with Bolivar in front. In the same context, the Vice President of Mobilization and Events of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, Nahum Fernandez, highlighted a massive turnout of the people at the Cuartel de la Montaña to honor the eternal commander Hugo Chavez.
We are truly amazed at our people coming here to the mountain barracks, to this sacred site. We have seen at least 20,000 people passing through. We have an impressive ceremony here. Also, we have been with the Foundation Comandante Eterno Hugo Chavez that has had a permanent cultural space here. Inside the premises, we have carried out activities with the national leadership of the party, the communal councils. People have attended to remember the greatness of Commander Hugo Chavez.
In Argentina, the resignation of the Secretary of Strategic Affairs of the Executive Branch, Gustavo Bellis, was announced. In the middle of expectations for eventual changes in the cabinet, the official who has accompanied President Alberto Fernandez since the beginning of his term personally informed his decision during a meeting at the Casa Rosada. A lawyer and journalist, Bellis, who was also Secretary of the Civil Service and Director of the Economic and Social Council and Minister of Interior. In Argentina, President Alberto Fernandez decided to recognize the economic areas of his cabinet for better management. Through a statement, the head of state declared that the ministers of economy, productive development, and agriculture, livestock, and fisheries will be unified and will also include the relations with international, bilateral, and multilateral credit organizations. The new ministry will be in charge of Sergio Massa, current president of the Chambers of Deputies, as soon as his resignation from his seat is resolved. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. The President of Peru, Pedro Castillo, through his annual message to Parliament, will attend cooperation with all political sectors to work together to solve the country's problems. The head of state made references to a series of measures with which he seeks to overcome the climate of confrontations that began in his first year of government. Pedro Castillo emphasized that he will extend his hand to work together for the benefit of the people based on national development objectives. In the same way, the President made a clear separation with corruption and ratified his commitment to submit himself to the investigation opened against him in the public ministry. Once again, that law paved the way for Bolivia's major national projects. This Wednesday, President Luis Arce held a meeting with the country's mayors and reached important agreements to move forward with the 2024 census. The head of state and the mayors from the 9 capital cities, plus El Alto, agreed to assume the process of socialization of the census in each department to advance in a reliable way towards the development of the census, as stated in the final report of the meeting. Bolivia's presidential spokesman, Jorge Richard, joined by the mayor and deputy minister of autonomy, Alvaro Ruiz, informed of the agreement reached on the different matters. The meeting extended for more than 4 hours, and it took place at the Great House of the People. The presidential spokesman also highlights that the agreement to depolitize the census was one of the most important achievements of the meeting.
Of course, most of you want to know some elements of what we discussed. What are the main issues of the last 2 weeks concerning the census? We must point out that the main agreement we have at this moment and we will read the minutes when the meeting is over. The main agreement we reached was to work along the lines of depoliticizing the census so it can recover its true essence, which is that of a completely technical process.
One of the departments with the most criticism against the census is Santa Cruz. Its mayor, Johnny Fernandez, took to the floor to value the importance of the meeting.
To be able to know in detail each of the steps taken to build what we want, a quality census, a transparent census. This was the best scenario. To talk about one side or the other, it was not appropriate, it was not good. And today, what has been done is to look for the right scenario.
Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador expressed his willingness to abandon the TMEC trade agreement if it's infringed on the country's sovereignty. The Mexican president said he will write a letter to the President of the U.S., Joe Biden, to express his disagreement after the petition for consultations made by the White House in which the United States and Canada accused Mexico of violating the TMEC, with the electricity industrial law that seeks to strengthen the Mexican public electricity company over foreign companies. López Obrador emphasized that Chapter 8 of the TMEC was a crucial part of the negotiations of the trade agreement, a chapter that establishes Mexico's autonomy to develop its energy industry in a sovereign way. Nearly 100 migrants are rescued after a truck headed the U.S. border that was found abandoned in Mexico. The migrants were discovered on a highway in the eastern state of Veracruz, according to authorities who said the vehicle was headed for the U.S. border. About a dozen people were reported that have been taken to hospital due to various symptoms of asphyxiation. Transporting migrants in overcrowded trucks is one of the most dangerous methods used by smugglers in Mexico. In June, over 15 migrants died after they were abandoned in a hot trailer truck in San Antonio, Texas. Teachers' unions in Panama continued its struggle actions after 28 days of consecutive protests due to the lack of answers by the government to its demand. Teachers belonging to the Alianza Pueblo Unido por la Vida and the Alianza por los Derechos del Pueblo Organizado, ANADEPO, marched in Panama City and other cities in the country to demand that the President Laurentino Cortizo take actions to control inflation. They also demand that the Panamanian government to allocate at least 6% of the gross domestic products to public education. It was also known that educators in the provinces of Herrera and Los Santos intermittently closed the bridge over the La Villa River, while teachers in La Chorrera, in the western part of the country, mobilized and demands answers from Cortizo. The U.S. economy entered a technical recession with a 0.9% decline in gross domestic product. According to preliminary estimates registered by the U.S. Commerce Department, the economy contracted by the 0.9% in the second quarter after the 1.6% drop reported in the first 3 months of the year 2022. In this regard, the White House declared not to be surprised and that the economy is under its track, while the Federal Reserve System keeps applying plans to lower the effects caused by the inflationary process. By consensus, specialists qualified the recession as a technical recession after 2 quarters of the economy contraction. We have our news coming up after this financial break, so don't go away. Welcome back. In Mali, terrorist attacks left a total of 15 soldiers and 3 civilians killed during 2 separate attacks in the southwest of Wednesday, according to an army statement. 6 soldiers died and 25 were wounded when terrorists assaulted a military camp in the Sonkolowera rural community in the south-central Sogo region, more than 3,000 kilometers north of the capital Bamako. 9 soldiers and 3 civilians were killed during an early morning attack on a different camp in the southwestern town of Calumba, and another military base in the central town of Mopti also was attacked during the night without casualties. And in Palestine, several human rights organizations raised their voices in denunciation of the possibilities of Tel Aviv government facilitating the transfer of occupied Palestinian territories to settlers. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry itself has issued a statement denouncing the massacre being committed against its people by occupying authorities who are expropriating and looting homes and farmland. According to human rights activists, Israel is allegedly falsifying the ownership of land and real estate in Jerusalem in favor of expanding settlements operation and stealing more land from Palestinian residents. Hundreds of internally displaced Afghans who have taken shelters in the capital headed back to their home in the country's eastern province almost a year after the end of a war that forced them to flee.
Okay, today we have a return movement of 230 households, about 1,600 people. They're going back to their home areas in eastern Afghanistan, Lakhman, Kunar, Nangarhar province, for example. And this is part of a series of return movements we've had this week of internally displaced persons who fled due to conflict over the last years, living in Kabul, who want to go back due to the improvement in the security situation in various parts of the country.
Marielle Frank is a statue.
Okay, today we have a return.
Russian prosecutors General Igor Kashnov denounced on Thursday in Kyrgyzstan that Western weapons supplies to Ukraine are appearing on the black market. He stated during his visit to the city of Klavlowada, where he held a working session with his counterpart Kreml Selfjet. Prosecutors Krasnov explained that there is strong circulations of arms and ammunition, mainly in the black market, which is not controlled by any community authorities. The senior Russian official recalled that Moscow raised all the complaints about a risk of lack of control over the military equipment, but they were ignored. The Russian prosecutor also reported that the same event that his office has initiated thousands of criminal cases for what he called the extermination of the Kiev regime on the population of the Donbas. Today, humanity is exhausting its resources as we celebrate World Nature Conservation Day according to the Global Footprint Network. Today marks the precise date when humanity's demands for resources and ecological services in a given year exceeding what the Earth can generate for the year. As of today, the planet is in the red. The World Wildfire Fund has issued a struck warning renewing a few hours ago in order to keep up with humanity's current paces. The planet's Earth will be needed. The organization also clarified in the final report that not all countries consume the same amounts of land. teleSUR English continues to grow. Its signal now reaches Europe. You can order it from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on the screen are in place since July 1st, and quite soon, but the changes will be implemented for the signal in the Middle East and Africa. Now more than ever, the world connects to us and our stories are being heard all around the globe. This news multi-platform will continue providing trustful content to oppose the humanist media's narrative and our faithfulness to our audience. Esther, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. teleSUR English, I'm from the South, I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.